Bismillah. Assalamu alaikum, guys. Today we are here on the Green Light podcast collaborating with IshaWorkz, and we have a very special guest today. He graduated from the University of Pennsylvania after 3 Pete wins in the Ivy League. He is a 2-time Ivy League Player of the Year, a Big 5 Player of the Year. He holds the record for all-time steals in the Ivy League. He is a Hall of Famer in the Big 5, former NBA player, also an overseas pro, and currently the full-time IECPA Youth Director and our very own MB champion. We have Sheikh Ibrahim Jaaber. I'm going to do the snap. You don't have to do it.
It doesn't work when you do it.
Huh?
There we go.
It works when you do it.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Welcome.
What's up?
Welcome to the podcast. Thank you for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for coming.
It's a pleasure to be here. Right?
I have the first question for you.
Okay.
Can you start by telling us where you're from and what life was like growing up?
Okay. So where I'm from is sort of an anomaly because I moved around a lot when I was a kid, so I lived in a lot of different places. I was born in Brooklyn. By the time I was 2 years old, I was living in North Carolina. By the time I was 8, I was living in Virginia. And then when I was 15, I moved up to Jersey. And I continued to move. I went to Pennsylvania after that, to the University of Pennsylvania, and then I went overseas. So I consider myself somewhat of a international citizen.
Okay.
But I think that was a big part of my development as a person. So being well-rounded, being sort of familiar with a lot of different cultures and a lot of different people, because I traveled around a lot.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can you tell us what it was like growing up?
In what way, like?
Well, like I guess like what like if you were to like for me growing up, like I had 3 brothers, like
Yeah.
like
So I would say 3 things were constants in my life, and family, obviously, being the first thing. I had a large family. I have 12 siblings, so there's always a crowd,
yeah.
you know, and had to learn how to be comfortable in uncomfortable situations.
Okay.
You know, so when we pack up and go on road trips, you know, I'm the guy squeezed in the middle between like 2 snoring older brothers, you know, and I'm their pillow, you know, and I get no sleep for the 8-hour trip or what have you, right?
Mm-hmm.
So family was always a constant. Faith was also obviously always a constant. So having imams, as a father, as an uncle, as a grandfather, you know. So faith was, you know, a non-negotiable, essentially, like something that's just like deeply embedded from the time before you actually come into consciousness, you know. And the other thing was basketball.
Yeah.
I'm sort of a legacy holder for basketball because I'm 3rd generation basketball. Wow. So my grandfather played basketball when he was in the Army. He played all Army, and he traveled to like Berlin and competed over there. This is 1950s.
Mm-hmm.
And then my father, all of my uncles, my mother, before she actually embraced Islam, she played basketball, and her, I guess, best quality as a basketball player was defense.
Nice,
so she would always say, like, you got that from me.
Yeah, generational talent.
Yeah, you know. And so I was born with a basketball. I started playing as early as the age of 4 older brothers.
Mm-hmm.
So a rough boyhood, you know, fighting, competing in everything you can compete in, not just sports. But I think a lot of that shaped me into the person and the player that I ultimately became. And I say that because my brother, closest in age, at least from my older siblings, is 3 years older.
Okay.
You know, and so I was always playing with older, faster, stronger, more experienced players. So that helped me sort of advance at a young age.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I think
There's more, man. You know. There's
keep
more.
keep going.
But no.
Okay. And Isha, I believe, has the next question.
What were some challenges you faced growing up?
Some challenges. I think one of the biggest challenges growing up was not being as confident in the talents and abilities, and also the plan of Allah for me. And so it wasn't until I was like a sophomore, maybe after my freshman year of college, when I realized that I could potentially like be actually playing professional basketball. And I had been playing basketball at that time almost 20 years. And I played against some really good competition, right? And so just learning to really believe in your ability, right? And also believe in the plan of Allah was something that I think I struggled with a little bit. But year after year, I felt like I got better at it, and it helped me go the distance. Yeah.
Yeah, you answered one of my questions about your first memories playing basketball. You said you were playing with your siblings and your parents growing up.
Yeah.
So, do you remember a specific moment where you were like, I could take this to the next level. It's more than just a hobby.
Yeah, I have a lot of early memories. Some of my earliest memories aren't sort of like glory moments. They're the opposite. So again, I told you guys I played with a lot of older people. So in North Carolina, I was playing for the Salvation Army, and my older brother Ismail and Lukman are both on my team, 3 and 4 years older than me, right? Mm-hmm. And we're in a playoff sort of game. The gym is going crazy, hot day, and I'm out of my league. I'm way out of my league, right? I'm like 7, 8 years old. And my brother Ismail was like 11, right? So he throws the ball to me in like a clutch situation, right? And he just throws a bullet pass. I mean, like, I don't know, like a bullet pass, right? And so it was coming so fast at me and so hard that I knew it was going to hurt me if I tried to catch it.
You dunked it?
I dunked.
Oh, no.
I dunked. Right? And he looked at me like he was going to kill me. When we go home, like, it's over, right? So that's like my early humble beginnings as a basketball player, you know. In terms of aha moments, I think just in terms of like, oh, I can really do this. I think it was probably in college over the summers when I would play against guys who had already started their careers overseas.
So it took you till you were already playing college ball to realize that you could really take it to the next level. I feel like most guys would be thinking in high school, like, wow, if I can make it into college ball, then I can make it anywhere. But it took you after that to really realize you could go to the next level.
I mean, so, like, again, I think there's levels to that. Mm-hmm. So, like, when it was like, oh, yeah, like, I'm talking about, oh, yeah, I'm there, I'm ready, you know?
Yeah.
And so I think that happened, in college when I was playing against guys who were University of Pennsylvania legends or what have you in Philadelphia, playing in the NBA, playing overseas, and they're saying, who's this kid? Mm-hmm. You know? And I'm like, I'm finding out how much money they make overseas and stuff like that. So it was like, oh, yeah, I'm there, you know? And one of my coaches actually said straight to my face, he was like, yo, you're a pro. What are you doing? Mm-hmm. Like, you're a pro. Like, he was like, Coach Gill, so he said it. And from there, I really think, my mindset changed. In high school, I competed against a lot of players, like NBA guys, Lawal Dink, who played for Chicago. Damn. Him and Charlie Villanueva were on the same high school team.
That's nasty.
Yeah. We played them twice, both games,
Lawal
30
Dink was
plus.
Freaky, dude. Lengthy shooter.
Yeah, and he was guarding me.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Dude, Lawal Dink is like 6'7".
No, he's like 6'10".
Damn.
Yeah, long weeks, and he's known for defense and hustle. Yeah. So I had 30 against them.
Oh damn.
Right. My first team, all high school, and these were sort of like those seeds, right? It was like, yo, I'm doing this, but you know what I mean? Is it really going to play out? Yeah. And this is like pre-college, right? My first team, high school, was a guy named Bashir Mason. He's a college basketball coach now. Myself, and then it was Charlie Villanueva, Lawal Dink, and J.R. Smith.
That's crazy.
Yeah, that's crazy.
It's crazy because when I was growing up, like, I would be watching NBA Game Time on the TV, like watching Nuggets highlights of J.R. Smith 360.
Yeah.
Lawal Dink with Derrick Rose, like it's like it seems like a different universe to a person like me growing up. So like to hear that you were playing against these guys on like some casual runs, like that's insane.
JR I never played against, but Charlie and Lowell and Bashir I did. But I was in a gym one time. We were playing in a Christmas tournament or winter tournament. And I was actually playing, but JR was from the area. And he walked into the gym and the whole gym got quiet.
He had aura?
Like, yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Smith is him.
To be in that type of company, like those are the things that kept me going, I would say. Like, okay, I'm getting closer.
Mashallah.
And it was really at college when I was like, yeah, I could do this.
I'm next. Okay. So after high school, you went to the University of Pennsylvania to study sociology and to play basketball.
To play basketball and study.
Sorry, to play basketball
Yeah.
and to study sociology. What was it like to be a student athlete for you? And were there any challenges that you faced? Because I do think that, especially for the MB guys, there's a lot of guys who are going away to college now, and
Yeah.
they consider themselves athletes.
Honestly, to end up playing Ivy League basketball, right?
Yeah.
University of Pennsylvania, for those who know, is an Ivy League school. The league is Princeton and Harvard and Yale and Dartmouth and Brown and Columbia, elite academic institutions, like on an international scale. And so that to me was in and of itself almost like something that I could never imagine. I was always like a decent student. Like I was smart enough to get A's and B's, like if I tried. But like I never had Ivy League on my radar. Like the most I knew about Ivy League. I don't know if you guys ever seen this horrible movie called How High. It's like Redman and Method Man, and they just smoking the whole movie and like. But the underlying message in that movie is like, if you're gonna go to Harvard from Newark, New Jersey, right? You must be joking or smoking. Yeah. Right. And so that was like the underlying message, right? And so, I never really thought Ivy League for myself, So to end up at the University of Pennsylvania as a student athlete, it was certainly a privilege, a great opportunity, but it was also a challenge, because I didn't have the academic sort of foundation as everybody else around me that I'm competing with that went to $40,000 and $50,000
You were
private and
on
prep
athletic
schools.
scholarship?
There were no scholarships
So you were
in
just
the Ivy
there.
League, yeah. So financial aid, so depending on how much you need, that's what they give, right? But I had to do, especially like my freshman year, it was difficult because I was doing 15 and 20 hours a week for work study. And we had basketball, right? And we had study hall, right? So we had a lot of things going on, especially as freshmen coming in. They want to make sure you're successful, but your time gets so squeezed, And so it was definitely a huge adjustment, especially my freshman year. But, I think one of my greatest qualities is just being flexible and able to adapt. And so I had to learn fast, in order to survive in that space.
Thank you, Isha. You go ahead.
I was kind of getting into like the next question, but what was your training like during college? Like, was that really tough to balance?
Training?
With your academics?
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely tough to balance. But, just being a basketball player, like playing basketball, competing, working out, is something that I always look forward to. So basketball was never really a burden up until that point in my life, right? It was always something like that was therapeutic for me. I'm going to play basketball. We're going to run. We're going to bump. We're going to fall. We're going to, sort of push ourselves, and compete for a couple of hours out of the day, So that never was like a burden, when I was in college. It was balancing that with now I'm exhausted and I still got a paper to do, so pulling all-nighters was, a normal thing, staying up all night to complete a paper or a project, those type of things. So La yukallifu Allahu nafsan illa wusaha. Allah doesn't put a burden on a person that they cannot bear. So He gave me all the help that I needed to be able to succeed while I was there. Yeah.
Alhamdulillah. So you start your professional career in Detroit, right?
Yeah, technically. I mean, before Detroit, I signed with an agent, and that was a whole process. And then I started working out in Vegas
With Summer League, right?
Yeah, a lot of the Adidas players, guys like Sebastian Telfair, Kyle Lowry. I don't know if you guys remember Birdman.
Yeah.
Rudy
Chris
Gay.
Anderson.
Yeah. Like half of the Grizzlies at that time would come to
Wow.
Vegas and work out in the summer. And that was another one of those eye-opening experience. And then at that same time, I was doing my NBA tryout. So trying out for the Raptors, trying out for the Warriors, trying out for the Bobcats, the Michael Jordan Bobcats, right? Where they just want to break you during their workout, right? Rockets, and of course the Pistons. And I went based on the advice from my agency with the Pistons. I played for their summer league. And the reason I actually played for their summer league, mind you, they drafted 3 guards. They drafted 3 guards.
Yeah.
So I knew they weren't going to pick me up because they already had enough guards on their roster.
Log jam there.
Yeah, but they guaranteed me playing time and exposure during summer league.
Okay.
Right, and so that's what I was looking for because I didn't get drafted. That's a long story. Even though Houston, years later, I found out wanted to draft me. But
Do you know who they drafted that year?
So instead of drafting a guard, I don't remember exactly who they drafted, but they picked up Kyle Lowry, who was in his contract year.
Okay.
And so me and Kyle Lowry were under the same agency, right? And because I was a nobody and a newbie, right, my agents pushed him to Houston and not me, basically. And so after Summer League, had a really good performance at Summer League. So I don't know if you guys know Joe Dumars.
Of course.
You see, the one who knows all
Yeah,
these
Pistons legend.
Yeah, Pistons legend. Yeah, like he would be pulling me aside after the Summer League games.
That's crazy.
Saying, "Yo, keep doing what you're doing."
That's insane.
You guys know Louis Williams? He played for the
Yeah.
Sixers
Yeah, yeah.
from the beginning. Yeah, like my
Lemon
first Summer
Pepper Lou.
League game was against him.
Lemon Pepper Lou is a beast. He's
Yeah.
unstoppable on offense, like except for
Go back to
Ibrahim Jaaber.
No. I'm not saying that at all, but I know I forced at least like 6 turnovers
That's crazy.
in a short window. I wasn't playing like 40 minutes. I wasn't playing like the whole time. I was coming off the bench.
Yeah, that's
and my
crazy.
role was to bring in energy and disrupt stuff. Like
So I was gonna ask you about that. Being a fringe player who's always fighting for a roster spot, right? You're like fighting for minutes, fighting for opportunities. What was that like?
I mean, that was really, I would say, confined to that NBA sort of experience, right? And I won't say it was so vivid because it was so short-lived. Like, literally, like I said, I knew I was going to play a certain amount of minutes. My hope was that another team would notice me, right? And so you go out there, you put everything on the line, and you wait for somebody to call. You know, it's not like you're engaged in the conversation much with upper management. And
You don't know what's going on.
So you don't know what's going on. You
Yeah.
really have to rely a lot on your agents, right?
Yeah.
And so in my process, I chose an agency based on relationships, not based on who I knew was going to actually work hard for me. And so I actually got with this agency through a mutual friend. It was like almost like them doing me a favor.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, okay, they got big names like Kevin Garnett, Chauncey Billups.
Yeah.
Right. So they have leverage, they have pull, and that could be in my favor.
Yeah.
Right. And so that was why I decided to go with them. But I realized they didn't really know who I was as a player.
Yeah.
Right. Because
They weren't invested in you.
yeah. They were hearing about how well I was performing out in Vegas when I'm playing against and with these pros.
Yeah.
You know, and even some of the workouts, they would put me against players to make the other player look good.
Wow.
And then it would backfire.
I was gonna say, wait, so you're telling me you got cooked?
No, I would end up
You would
cooking
end up cooking
that
him.
player. And the thing about the NBA, oftentimes when you have these workouts, they may have 4 people in the workout. They may have one person that they're actually really considering. And so it doesn't matter if you outperform that person. It's not like, oh, you climb up their list. No, you just X'd out that other person, basically.
They're looking at one guy.
Yeah. And so it doesn't matter how well you perform in some of those situations because they weren't really looking at you. It was you there for them to work out against, you know? And so they were kind of learning about me as a player, you know, so they couldn't really sell me because they didn't really know like what I was capable of. Yeah.
Interesting.
Did you have a favorite teammate in the NBA?
Do I have a favorite teammate in the NBA? Okay, let me clarify. Yeah. Okay, my NBA career was probably the shortest NBA career in NBA history, right? Most of my experience was either summer league or veterans camp. So I played summer league with the Pistons. I played summer league with the Lakers, and I played. Or I was at the veterans camp for the Houston Rockets. And then Houston signed me. They gave me a contract.
And I've seen the picture.
Right, so the picture...
all spammed in the
I've
chat.
seen that picture.
And
I've seen it in my
number
sleep.
8, Houston Rockets. Yeah.
I've seen that picture too many times.
So what happened was they signed me for what's called a non-guaranteed contract. So it means you have to perform up until a certain point and then they can renew it or, you know, they have the option up until a certain point, right? But during that process, when I was in Houston for veterans camp, Houston was trying to make a 3-way trade with the New Orleans, the Chris Paul New Orleans, right? And the Lakers, Kobe Bryant Lakers, right? So they were trying to actually clear roster space in Houston, right? For myself, Jeremy Lin, and I think another player.
I remember this.
This was before Linsanity.
I remember this not because of you, but just because growing up, like everybody knew about the Chris Paul potential trade.
Yeah,
it was a huge deal.
Yeah, trying to get Chris Paul to the Lakers.
Yeah,
so that's what it was all
Chris Paul
about.
was the best player in the NBA at the time.
Right, because all the teams were rushing to get the big 3.
Yeah,
that's how you became competitive in the league at that time.
Were
right?
the Celtics already formed at that point?
Yeah.
So everyone's chasing that.
Yeah. And so the NBA vetoed that trade.
Yeah, I remember.
Twice.
That was still David Stern, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. Twice they vetoed that trade. Right. And so a consequence of that is that I think it was like 18 players that had contracts with the Rockets.
Damn.
But you can't have...
Yeah, it's 15 max.
Yeah, max, right?
Yeah.
And so the guys who had the non-guaranteed contracts, they had to let them go first.
Wow.
Right. And so I was involved in that epic sort of like, you know, trade, but I was on the short end of the stick basically where I didn't get that Rockets contract and I ended up, that was the only official NBA contract that I got paid for. And we played an exhibition game against San Antonio and I didn't play because they already knew they weren't going to be able to keep me.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that, though. That's a very crazy story.
Yeah. It's even crazier, but I can't go into much more detail. But I was actually flying to New Orleans first, to their veterans camp, and I landed in New Orleans. Again, they're trying to trade Chris Paul. Yeah. And so they're going to look for veteran guards who have experience to come in and fill
Did you
that
meet
void.
CP?
No, because when I landed in the airport, my agent was like, "Don't answer your phone." He's like, "You're going to Houston instead." So I literally, he said, "Houston's going to give you money."
Oh, okay.
So New Orleans they didn't commit to give me money, right? So I was literally in the airport. The guy from New Orleans is calling me to pick me up for a veterans camp. And I'm just putting it on silent, right? And then I got another flight from the airport.
Who's paying for these flights?
My agent, basically.
He pays for it, okay.
But the teams pay for it. But
they
obviously,
reimburse.
Okay.
So like in that short time was like who's the toughest player you've ever had to guard?
Toughest player I had to guard. Man, I'm actually often asked this question. I would say from like guys who had tenure in the NBA, right? One guy that I guarded a long time since high school and through college was Randy Foye. he went to Villanova for college. He played at Eastside High School in Newark, and he was, years ahead of his time. Like what he was doing in the NBA, he was doing in high school.
He was a role player though.
In
the NBA, I understand.
Yeah,
I'm just saying.
Okay, I'll say what he was doing in college.
I'm just giving context. Yeah.
What he was doing in college to get him to the NBA is what he was doing as a sophomore, junior in high school.
Okay.
Right. So he's easily getting 30 plus in high school. So I'm guarding him, and he's actually the player that I measured myself against. Right. So I said, if I'm going to make it to the league, then I got to get as strong as him. I got to learn how to jump like he jumps, and I got to shoot as well as him. And I start to build up like that. Right. I got to get faster. I got to get stronger. So he was one of those players. Brandon Jennings, he came when I was playing in Italy. He came over to Italy, and we played on the same team. And so both of us playing the same position, we had to go head to head every day. Yeah. Right. And so he just had a quick first step, and he was very crafty and very shifty. Yeah. Right. So he was a tough guard. He was a tough one to guard. I say I guarded him pretty well. Right. But he just had like a certain type of quickness that was like, if you mess up, he's gone. Yeah. And so he was an everyday competitor.
So you spent some time in the NBA trying to get a contract there, and then you end up overseas in the EuroLeague, right?
Yeah.
You started in the Greek League?
Yes. So my first contract, this is right after Detroit. I was sleeping on my mother's couch, right? It's fresh out of college. Probably didn't have, $1,000 in the bank and no clue what I was going to be doing. I get a call after Summer League. You just got $100,000 offer to go to Greece.
Okay.
You have 24 hours to make a decision.
Wow. How did they scout you? Through
Summer League, NBA Summer League, agent connections. So the year prior, my agency had another player that played at the club that was offering me, right? So they developed a relationship, and they said, hey, we got a player that fits into, can fill that void, basically, right? And so they made me the offer. They said, you have 24 hours. In my mind, I'm like, no veterans camp, Yeah. But, the offer was so
veterans
good.
Camp?
So veterans camp is basically when a team is seriously considering you, you go to veterans camp. That's like when the team is there. Summer League is just like guys trying to get to veterans camp, guys trying to get exposure, right? But veterans camp is, you're playing with the team. Do you actually fit
You're now in their facility.
Yeah.
Okay, working with them directly.
So that's veterans camp,
okay,
right? Okay. So, but I'm young. I don't know the process. I don't know really what's going on behind the scenes. And again, I'm Ivy League player. That's mid-major, right? Not a lot of us get into the league, So I'm like, man, I mean, I know I wasn't like dropping 20 or anything like that in the summer league, but in my mind, I'm like, no veterans camp. All right, well, I'm just gonna put in my work overseas, right? But what I really should have did is say no. I wanna keep trying for the league.
Okay.
To kind of put more pressure on my agents. Yeah. Okay. To put more pressures on my agents, to follow through.
Okay.
Same thing. Similar happened to me in high school. So I didn't have any D1 offers coming out of high school, after my senior year, and I had a D2 offer and a ton of D3 offers, but none of them is what I really wanted. I felt like I had,
D1 potential.
D1 potential for sure, and so I decided instead of going for the D2, which people were saying, just take it. Yeah. I did a prep school year. I did a postgraduate year. Yeah. And that was the year when things broke open. That's when I got to play against guys like Ding and, that type of caliber player and showcase my talent on that level. And that's when a lot of the D1s picked up, like Penn and a lot of the Ivy League as well, because prep school, good grades, good scores, right? He can fit into our sort of culture.
And then you spent most of your time in the EuroLeague, right, in Italy?
So I did 3.5 years in Italy. Okay. Yeah, so I went from Greece. I was the leading scorer, leading steals, and second in assists. And so Rome bought my contract within 4 months.
Wow.
Yeah, so I was in Greece for like 4 months in Athens, and then I went to the EuroLeague.
Wow.
Yeah, and I stayed there, basically.
In the EuroLeague.
Yeah,
So
and
it's been-
so EuroLeague is basically the second league in the world to
Yeah,
the
yeah.
NBA.
Yeah. So you spend your time in the EuroLeague, and towards the end of your career, you start having some personal moral quandaries with the league. I have a quote here from you if you want me to read it.
I'm nervous, man. What did I say back
You were
then?
quoted
Like,
as saying, "I'm well aware that this decision may prevent me from earning money through basketball for the rest of my life, but I'm willing to make this sacrifice because of my beliefs in Islam."
mashallah.
Is that a?
I don't
accurate
remember
quote?
saying that, but
It's a good
that
quote.
that captures the sentiment of that decision that I made. Actually, after my first child was born in Lithuania,
Okay.
and you know, certain things that didn't stick out to me before as a younger player and as a younger, less mature Muslim as well,
Yeah.
began to really stick out to me when I was overseas, and when I was studying and when I was trying to come closer to Allah, and a lot of it didn't sit well with me,
Yeah.
and so I felt like I had to make a decision. It wasn't sort of an absolute decision, like I'm not going to look back and review it.
Yeah. It sounds like you were aware of the risks, but
To be honest, I got an offer like a week later from the team that won it that year or the next year
in the EuroLeague.
in the EuroLeague.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
phenomenal.
So, but anyway, so when my son was born, because of just the culture of the arena, not basketball, it had
Yeah.
nothing to do with basketball, I said to my wife that, you know, I'm not sure if I want to bring him into that space, right?
Yeah.
And so that's what actually jump started the conversation. And obviously, if he can't come, my wife can't come.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And so it's something that the family would be divided on, you know? And so I started to weigh my options, and it was really like me just stepping back and saying, you know what, I'm going to take a breather. But ultimately, I never looked back.
Mashallah.
Your game places a heavy emphasis on defense and ball pressure. You're also a dynamic scorer and playmaker who can score from all three levels and play make for your teammates. You can tell you wrote this. What does it take to be such an elite defender? And can you tell us some of the keys to being a dynamic scorer? So elite defender, what do you think? How do I become an elite defender? And some keys to becoming a dynamic scorer for Yassine.
I think defense obviously requires like a certain level of like deception, like being able to like trick the person that you're trying to steal the ball from, like especially stealing the ball.
Yeah, you don't need to point to me.
Yeah, I don't think I ripped you when we played you
I was
guys.
actually so proud that I think I had 2 turnovers.
Okay, all right.
I didn't turn the ball ever at all when I played this season with him.
Not once?
No, he didn't force me to turn the
okay.
ball over at all.
Me?
Yeah.
You were on my team.
That's
Oh, okay. Yeah. But there's certain like principles that I sort of play upon, right? In terms of defense, like disrupt, never allow the other person to feel comfortable. Obviously, a lot of it is also just instinct and accumulated experience. Like
Yeah.
I've been doing this same type of steal for like
30 years.
well, not 30 years, maybe 15.
Like 50 years.
Yeah.
60
Who
years.
knows how
Yeah,
long.
like since high school, basically, I've been doing that
40 years
same
ago.
type of steal.
Yeah.
So like,
Keeps
I've,
adding time.
yeah. How old am I after this podcast, right?
50
Like,
years you've been doing this.
right? How old am I now, right? But yeah, so like a lot of it is just like accumulated experience, and like even in college, right? Because I had coaches that supported this particular skill.
Defense.
Yes,
Yeah.
they let me take chances and let me make mistakes because they saw something that was like different about the way I did it. Like, and by the way, my older brother Lukman is better at stealing the ball than me.
Did he played
He
college
broke
ball?
records too. Yeah, he played college ball at Virginia Union.
And then he played professional as well, or no?
He played a little bit of professional as well.
Wow.
Finland, Saudi, different places like that. Yeah.
Mashallah.
But he never really got to the level that he should have been at,
Okay.
based on like just talent.
Yeah,
stuff
yeah.
like that. And so, like, one thing my coach at Penn used to do was he would keep track of deflections. Like, who keeps track of deflections, right? That's not a stat on the sheet, right? And at the end of practice, I would have, like, 16, 18 deflections, right? Some of those translate into steals for me, right? But others, right? And I always play with my hands. I think I was telling you this, right? Like, I never really use my forearm to body somebody.
We were talking about push-offs.
Yeah.
You were talking about I push when somebody's pushing on me.
Yeah, that's when I have the ball.
Yeah, I understand. And then you got onto I don't push when I'm on defense.
So I like my hands to be ready and available. Yeah. Right. So if I'm like this, then my left hand is out of the picture. Okay. Right. So I like to play defense with my chest. Right. And get in a position where my hands are in a position to be able to swipe at the ball. Normally I'm going to swipe up and not down, because normally swiping down is like almost like an automatic foul.
Because you're attacking around the hand and wrist?
Yeah. And then the referees can't see the contact.
If you're coming from below.
Yeah. Well, if you're coming from above, they can't see where you're actually.
Oh, I understand.
Right. But when you're coming from under, then it's more like open hand. It's more subtle, right? Yeah. So just like general principles, I mean, some of it, again, is natural, and a lot of it can just be developed, right? Like not letting the offensive player decide which way they're going to go, right? Really trying to force them to just choose one side. And that makes it easier for you to, In terms of scoring.
Why are you looking at me? He's the shooter. I'm here to play defense. That's why Farhad drafted me. He did not draft me to score.
We got a little bit of both sides of the ball from you this year, though.
Alhamdulillah. I think Farhad got me as the guy who's going to jump on the ball when it's like rolling around or something.
Energy and all of that, aggressive.
Alhamdulillah.
I would say it was in prep school when I really spread my wings as a scorer. Well, actually, let's go back. When I was 13, I moved to Morocco overnight. Right? Dad's decision, not mine. Right? Didn't want to go. Right? But I ended up there, and obviously, we're studying Deen, we're learning culture. It's a family project. Yeah. Right? And the third thing was basketball, right? So basketball is always there. Yeah. And so we got with a local natty club there. Yeah. And I was the American kid, right? So it was like, you're going to be the star on the team. Yeah. And so that forced me to really like develop offensively, and play in the clutch, and all your teammates are like, you got to do something, and we wasn't working with a lot, so that's when I would say I had sort of a growth spurt. As an offensive-minded player. And I got better year after year, and it was in college again when my coach said, we're going through you. We're playing through you, And so the offense was built around me, And so that was my natural position, was actually shooting guard, not point guard. I played shooting guard all the way through my junior year of college. Okay. Yeah. I only started playing point guard to prepare for the NBA. Yeah. And so, I mean, I was very imaginative as a kid. So, like, I would play against my shadow. I would imagine different scenarios, Even, like, I would dribble from my house to school, just all left. And that's a 20-minute, 25-minute.
Just dribble.
Yeah, there and back. Right. I would actually practice shooting with my left hand. Like just jump shots,
coordination,
just to try it out. I might need this one day. You
never know.
Yeah. And I would say like in Europe is when I really developed shooting, like really technical shooting, and became more consistent because they demand that of you. You can't survive in Europe if you can't shoot. Yeah. Every position.
Well, that's how basketball is in general now.
Well, it has become like that.
Yeah, it's become that now, but yeah.
But it wasn't like that originally. Like, what are you shooting out here for? You're 7 feet. You know what I mean?
Oh,
like, That was that's not allowed. Yeah. But guys like Dirk and others, shattered that, and opened it up for bigs to be shooters. But overseas, like, bigs were always shooters,
Oh,
no, overseas in Europe, no, they were always shooters, right? If you can't shoot as a guard and you got bigs out there shooting, like, you can't play in this league.
No.
Yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
You guys didn't ask me any MB questions.
We're
about to get to
do you guys want to jump to the MB question?
Yeah. Isha, you wanna
Isha, do you
ask
wanna
him
start
number 12?
Yeah, number 12.
Mashallah, you've lived an exciting life. You've been all around and achieved so much. Like, what is the achievement you're most proud of?
MB questions. We're hoping it's the MB championship.
Most proud of.
Yeah.
You mean like on the basketball court or just like in general? Like
Just
in life?
Yeah.
I think obviously after just like faith and being, at this age and stage in my life and committed to just Deen and Islam, right? That's above and beyond everything. But I think the thing that I'm most proud about is my family, my wife and my children. I was sort of a knucklehead growing up, a goon, right? You know what a goon is, right? So I never imagined myself, being the type of family person that I am, and a decent husband who's been married for 14 years, and have 5 children, and the apple of my eyes. Like that's to me, like I don't know, nothing else really compares to that. Family comes first, and many decisions that I made that impacted my career, as I mentioned, like in Lithuania, when my son was born, it really changed the trajectory of my career. And even when I moved to Egypt, it was about, the experience of my children, having that early connection to Islam and just, Muslim culture and so forth.
Country.
Yeah. And even coming here to Allentown.
A big part of that was Islam.
Family.
Oh, okay.
Right, like an environment and space where I can
Raise
and control, just sort of what they're exposed to in this time and era where people are just everything goes, and everything is ready, available, So one of the reasons I came here to Allentown was to try to protect and preserve, the identity of my children. So family, no doubt.
I know like so many players in the league are excited to play against you, like to learn from you, watch your game, and just compete with you. What do you like about playing in MB?
MB is fun, first and foremost. I mean, the spirit, behind the game, the brotherhood. The personalities, like we got so much diversity, right?
That's why we have the best region.
Yeah.
We're not more talented, we just have the best people.
Yeah. The personalities, right? Yeah. The sportsmanship as well. It's all love. Like, you compete, you knock the person down, you get knocked down, but after that, you hug and you talk it out and you move forward, So I found certain things in Muslim basketball that just didn't exist, on the professional level. Being able to play alongside your Muslim brothers, and then after that you're praying together, or you have like really strong and true, authentic brotherhood and relationship. So it's been a great experience, and I'm loving to see how the league is growing. My first year here, we were playing in the parking lot at IECPA, right? At night in the dark. And mashallah, now, we're back in the gym, and the teams have expanded and the people have expanded, and there's this buzz and this hype, surrounding Muslim basketball. Yeah.
I need to revise what I just said, because I know there's going to be Jersey guys listening to this, and I just...
Oh, no, it's too late to backpedal now, right?
We do have the best talent, but what really separates us, in my opinion, is, like you said, the brotherhood. We have a unique bond like no other, alhamdulillah. But
it's not just basketball.
Yeah. But we do have better talent than them too. we'll see during the regional tournament.
You senior up.
So you won your second championship in MB, right?
Yes.
Number 2.
Yes.
How
my guy Yusuf right here.
Yeah. How special was this one? Did it feel any different? You won your first with Ayan and the youth, right?
Yeah. So I think there's a number of things that make this one special and different from that one. That one was obviously very, very special because those are like all my little brothers, like Ayan, Hakeem, Maz, Amar. I gotta name them all now that I'm mentioning them, right? Ian, that was his first year. Gauss, got that second one with Gauss now.
This one, Abdul
Summit, yeah. So those are all like my little brothers, and they've brought so much value to my life, just as like a youth director, as a person. So like that one was special for me and for them because of what they mean to me. But this one was special, I would say, because on a personal level, first and foremost. So like that championship with Ayan and the boys, I was injured. I was still sort of recovering from the injury that I sustained the first season when I was playing. Right? And you had the surgery. Right. Well, all of it was ultimately connected, right? Yeah, so going through the surgery, learning how to walk again, not really knowing if I would ever get back to feeling, 60, 70% like how I used to feel on the court, right? So I think, and then the rumors start to spread, right? IJ is washed, right? I think because of just...
I was not part of those rumors.
I said that.
They were out there.
No, I didn't say that.
So I think like recovering from that and now being able to move as somewhat similar to how I used to move, it felt really, really good to be able to do that. And actually like the surgery that I had was like September the 14th. So like this is like the time where, that actually happened. So like to see the recovery, for me was good. And then playing with guys like Farhad, not just because
you didn't have to say that. You didn't have to say that.
No, but Farhad has always been in my corner.
Alhamdulillah. He's a good dude.
Since before I came to Allentown, and when I took the position as the youth director, I think Abad said I replaced Farhad, but in reality we just expanded, because he was the first one that was there to be on the committee with me, right? So just growing that relationship with him, but then I felt like it was an extra incentive, when everybody was like, he's been in the league for 20 years, he's never had a championship. Oh, yeah. So I really wanted to win it for him. And I felt like it didn't, like for me, like winning a championship, if it was just like me, it may not have been as like, I may not have been as driven to play competitively as I did in the playoffs, for example, right? Yeah. But I felt like it meant a lot to other people that were with me.
And those people meant something to you.
Yeah, so...
So by extension, it mattered.
Yeah. So I wanted to give back to somebody who's given a lot to me, mashallah, since I've been here. And I've been, I would say, the underdog for a long time. Like just all the way up through college, even like underestimated with the whole NBA thing and stuff like that, And so I have a certain type of affinity for the underdog. Yeah. Guys like Yusuf and Umair and, guys that people write off. Yeah. So like to try to bring the most out of them was also equally sort of like important and a motivating factor for me, to get that with them and for them. So it was definitely special, mashallah.
Yeah. You want to do 15?
Sure. You played in MB seasons past. How did this season stack up in comparison? And do you have any thoughts on the talent or overall direction that MB is heading in?
Yeah, I think I tapped on that a little bit, but I think this season was by far the most competitive season that I personally experienced, and I think that sentiment is almost consistent around the league for the most part. I mean, guys like Kia, who's this drop-dead shooter, assassin, sniper, right? Yeah. Him, Dion as well, a sleeper, definitely was a sleeper in the draft. But, really showed and shined through. Ayan put together a monster squad somehow, right?
Yeah, you got that substitution for Chris. That's really how it happened.
Yeah. And then guys have just improved since they've been with the league.
Yeah.
Like Maz and Hakeem, Ayan. They've really, improved, bringing in guys like James and Cody. Like, there's a lot more talent, I feel, from the Muslim side and also the non-Muslim side. Yeah.
All right. Last question from us here. People who are listening, they care about you, but a lot of them care most about your basketball knowledge, right?
Okay.
So 3 tips to listeners, quick tips that a person can use to improve their game in the off season.
Okay. This one requires a little bit more thought. So I had a trainer in high school, and he would ask me sort of this trick question. He would say, like, okay, what do you need to work on this summer? Right? And if I answered by saying, I really want to work on my shot, I'm like, no. He'd be like, you need to have the mindset you need to improve on everything, And that's for me where I was then, right? I think basketball is a game of sort of specialties.
Yeah.
So, like, if you can master 1 or 2 things, then you can be a really, really good basketball player on every level, depending on how elite you become at that thing, right?
Yeah.
And so that's what my first advice would be, like, what are your strengths and how do you build on them?
Okay.
All right, so if you're a decent shooter, right, take it to the next level, right, working on your shooting. If you are, an elite rebounder, like, own that, know, and start to make more out of it. One thing I did this year with Gauss is I would get that rebound and I would throw it. Yeah.
It became a joke.
It became like a
yeah, like he's leaking.
Yeah,
Ghost is leaking.
Gauss is Ghost,
he's
right?
leaking.
Yeah. So it's little things oftentimes that separate the goods from the greats. I think one of the things that separated us in the playoffs was just making free throws. Like, when you look at the second round and the third round, the games were that close that free throws decided ultimately who was the point differential. Yeah. Obviously you want to minimize your mistakes and weaknesses. So that requires practice, but that also just requires just conscious sort of evaluation. Like, what am I really, like, horrible at that makes me a liability in the second half? Especially, right?
Yeah, left hands.
Yeah, left hands. Certain IQ things like, shooting floaters from the short corner with 30 seconds left.
Thank you for getting me back on that one.
It was Farhan kept going, lift in.
Right. We all prayed that it would go in, but it didn't, right?
By the way, I mentioned it to him. I was so frustrated with you after that game because of that.
Yeah.
Because I thought you played a good game besides that. And I went to Brother IJ and I was like, what is Yusuf thinking? And he was like, I thought it was going in. He was like, nah, we work on that. I thought that one was going in.
And for the record, I made it I made that shot in the finals.
Yeah, but context.
Yeah.
No, yeah, for sure. I understand.
Yeah.
I'm just saying I came back and I found it. Sorry, go ahead.
And we got it.
And we got it.
Alhamdulillah. The third thing I think everybody can do is just get in better shape.
Okay.
I think being in shape gives you a natural edge, even if you're not as talented or skilled. And I think that's why Kia performs so highly every week.
He's an engine.
He just keeps running.
He's an engine.
So he's going to wear out that person, that maybe equally, I struggled to keep up with him. Like, I was hands on knees, obviously, right? But you can wear out your opponent, and the game just becomes so much easier when you're in decent shape. Yeah.
Okay.
All right, Isha, it's your time to shine.
All right.
Rapid fire.
The rapid fire.
Oh, okay.
Do you have a timer?
1 minute. Yeah.
I got you. Oh, you got it? Okay.
Uh-oh.
All right. 1 minute to answer.
How many
15
questions?
rounds. 15.
4 seconds a question. Okay.
All right, Mr. Mathematician.
Time and score.
A little flex.
All right. Ready? 3, 2, 1. Favorite player that you've watched grown
In the league.
in the league? Yeah.
That I've watched grown.
Yeah.
Grow.
That's hard. Maz and Hakeem.
Pistons or Rafa?
Rafa all day.
Favorite MB player?
Favorite MB player after myself? Kia. Yeah.
Favorite teammate?
Oh. Ayan.
Oh, all time. Yeah, all time. He doesn't like any of them.
Pancakes or waffles?
Pancakes.
Favorite NBA team?
I don't have one.
iPhone or Android?
iPhone.
Soda or coffee?
Coffee.
Breakfast for dinner or dinner for breakfast?
Breakfast for dinner.
Or
He took 40 seconds on
The
first
questions
question.
were too slow.
I might just finish it.
yeah. 1v. Who do you have in 1v1? Yasin or El? Not this.
Which Yasin?
50.
Yeah.
Yasin. Just to make L mad.
What about me, Yasin versus Al?
Yasin. We going Yasin. Huh?
Maz or Hakeem?
Both. Come on.
Hardest opponent this season?
Team or player?
Team.
Gaza.
Chocolate or candy?
Chocolate.
Cheesesteak or wings?
Cheesesteak.
And the hardest and last question, Rose or Ayan?
You said Gauss or Ayan? That's crazy. Neither.
Oh my god.
But you didn't say in what situation, so.
10 seconds left on the clock. Who do you want taking the shot? Go
Yeah.
straight in.
And you know Ghost is leaking.
Neither.
He's taking the shot.
I'm shooting.
Okay.
Huh?
10 seconds left. One shot. Yusuf or Omer?
Oh my god.
Ooh. I'm actually going to go Umair on this one. I am.
That's insane. That's fun.
All right.
Not because I think he'll make it on purpose. I think he has a better chance of accidentally making it than you.
All
Just
right.
think none of them will make the shot.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
I think that's all
Well,
we
thanks
got
for being
you.
on the podcast.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks for having me. It was a pleasure. And like I said, man, I really like to see where the league is and like all of the sort of extras that really make it, special, like the podcast and, having food together and those things, So keep doing what you guys are doing. May Allah bless you. You don't really know the impact that you're making and having, but it's happening in real time.
Alhamdulillah. We hope to have you back next season on the podcast and in the league. Inshallah.
No promises.
Yeah. All right.
IshaWorkz signing off.
All right.
Yeah. Good job, guys.